It's about time we brought a parenting expert onto this show. I feel like we all need it. We all have questions, right? So we brought in. So let me say a few things about Amy before I pull her up here. She is the founder of Positive Parenting Solutions. She's the author of 2 best-selling parenting books. If I have to tell you one more time, and the me epidemic. She's been seen everywhere from CBS This Morning, Fox and Friends, Rachel Ray, Steve Harvey, CNN, The Doctors, and others. She's probably a little too smart to be on this show, but we're extremely happy she's here. Amy McCready, everybody.
Yeah.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
Hey, I am great. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, on this show, we have, at least 4 members of the show have kids. So I've collected a lot of questions. I don't have kids. It's about time for me to start having kids. I think that happens in the next couple of years. But we have a lot of debates on this show about parenting, which is where you come in. So we're gracious for your time, and I want to start with this first question. Eddie, my best friend, one of our producers here, he's been paying his kids money for doing things in their basketball games, like making shots, steals, rebounds. Right. How do you feel about a parent paying their kids for sports?
Well, on the surface, it might make sense. It might seem to make sense because, we get paid to work, and we think that paying kids to do well would make sense. But the research shows that, you guys, I'm sorry, I'm getting so much back feedback. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Okay, sorry. So on the surface, that may make sense, but the research actually shows that when we use external rewards, whether it be money or gift cards, like Amy was talking about with doing chores, it actually erodes the kid's internal interest in doing that task. So it may work in the short term, but when you think about it, when we use rewards, it sends the message to our kids that, you know what, this must be really hard or a really undesirable task if I'm willing to pay you for it. And then over time, what happens is that the rewards lose their luster. So, a $5 bill may be really motivating at first, but then after a while, you have to keep upping the ante. And so over time, it's just not sustainable.
And you mentioned Amy. We have 2 Amy's here, but Amy, my co-host, she said, hey, I've got all these old gift cards, and you let your kids draw out of a bucket if they do a task, right?
Right. And it's not for their everyday. They have chores that are just expected of them as part of the family. There's things that are expected. There's no monetary gain from them at all whatsoever. I guess I just thought the grab bag of the gift cards might be incentive to do extra things. So, yeah, I guess that makes sense, though.
Well, and I think, too, and you said that before on the show, Amy, that you expect your kids to contribute because they're members of the family, and everybody has to contribute for the family to function. But what you described, I kind of call jobs for hire. So things that are outside of their normal responsibilities, if you want to pay kids to do that, it's their way to make extra money to save for things, or you want to reward with a gift card, nothing wrong with that, but it's outside the scope of what they're normally expected to do.
You guys taking notes over there?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I need to see pen to paper.
No, I got it.
down.
But that's what I guess I'm still, yeah.
Amy McCready's on. Our Instagram is Positive Parenting Solutions. Sometimes Eddie's foster kids will call him Daddy, and sometimes they'll call him Eddie.
Correct.
How should he and they handle that?
You know what? I don't think there is any rule on that. I think it's whatever Eddie feels comfortable with and his kids do. And, the way they address him, what name they use, that may even evolve over time. But my sense is, let's not even worry about that. Just, keep doing what we're doing. It feels good for everybody. Those kids feel included as a part of the family. That's the most important thing. And what they call them, what they call him, they can just figure that out over time in terms of what feels comfortable.
What about whenever a parent looks down and goes, you can eat everything on that plate or you're not getting out of that chair? How do you feel about that?
Well, again, we as parents, I think, do things with the best of intentions, but sometimes it just sends the wrong signal. And in that situation with the food, again, it becomes a task, a burden, something the kid has to do, rather than we want them to learn to eat because it nourishes their body, it keeps them healthy. That's why we want them to exercise or play basketball or all those things. we want them to foster that internal motivation to do those things. But when we kind of force it, you have to eat this, so you're not leaving the chair, you're not getting dessert until you eat your broccoli, then it makes broccoli the really yucky stuff that they have to stomach just to get to the good stuff with the dessert. So I'm kind of a fan of just teaching about healthy eating options and making it a pleasant experience at the table for everybody. And that usually works out best in the long run.
On this show, there's a debate because there are kids age 13 all the way down to 2, and it's at what age is the safest and healthiest for a kid to get a cell phone? What do you think it is?
Oh. Well, I get this question all the time, and I don't think there's a magic age. I think it's when the child is ready for it and when he needs it. So I usually ask 3 questions. And the first one is, do they actually need it? Like during normal times when kids have after-school activities and they're getting picked up and they may have to coordinate rides, like that's a reason that they need a cell phone. The second thing is, do you feel like they're responsible enough to use it safely and to follow your rules? So you have rules for technology. Can they follow those? And if so, then perhaps they're ready for a cell phone. And then the third rule, or the third litmus test, kind of has to do with a parent. So are you committed to doing the training on how to safely use it? Are you willing to follow through on the boundaries that you've set? And are you willing to model responsible behavior with technology? So if all 3 of those conditions are met, then I think, yeah, it's fine to get a cell phone, but obviously start out with a starter phone without internet access and let them learn how to use it successfully before they go to a more advanced phone.
Do you guys feel like your kids meet those? Amy,
Yeah.
You do?
Yes.
No. Eddie, you don't?
Definitely not. No, I might take the phone away now. After asking myself those 3 questions, no, we're not ready.
Okay. Right now, Amy McCready is on with us. Visit positiveparentingsolutions.com. You can sign up for Amy's free online class. I have a couple other things I want to ask first as you guys prepare. It's about spanking. To spank or not to spank? That is the question.
That is the age-old question, isn't it? And I know family philosophies differ on this, but as a parenting educator, I think there's always a more effective option than spanking for so many reasons. I mean, there's a growing body of research that shows that kids who are spanked at young ages, and I'm not talking about abuse, I'm talking about a swat on the bottom. The research shows that those kids tend to be more aggressive, and then they're prone to more behavior problems in adolescence. Spanking also sends the message that, you know what, it's okay for you to let your anger out in frustration by hitting somebody else, or that a stronger, more powerful person can hit a smaller, less powerful person. And that's not the long-term message that we want to send. On a very practical level, what happens when a child is being spanked, they go into that fear mode, right? And for any human, when we're experiencing fear or pain or anxiety or shame, we shut down and the learning event isn't actually taking place. So there are so many more effective parenting tools that actually help teach the kids the lesson, help them make better choices for the future, rather than spanking or punishing them for something that's happened in the past.
I have one final question for her, then you guys can ask yours, and then we have exhausted her time. We have an expert on. We like to squeeze as much out of an expert as we can when we get them on here. What's the age for the birds and the bees talk?
Oh, gosh.
Well, that talk should start early and happen often because the sexual researchers say that 10 is the new 16. So girls and boys are going through puberty earlier than ever. And when you combine that with everything they're exposed to in the media and on the internet, we really have to up our game there and have that conversation often. But it starts early with a lot of little conversations. It's not one big talk. So we can start when they're toddlers by calling all their parts the right names and having those conversations. Again, the research tells us that kids are way more comfortable talking about that than their parents are. So it's kind of our job to, even if we're not comfortable, fake it, act comfortable, and try to have those conversations as often as you can. Because obviously, when kids are in their tween and teen years, we want them to feel comfortable coming to us. Our job is to give them the right information so that they can make informed choices, but obviously that are aligned with our family values.
Amy McCready is on with us. You can follow her on Instagram at Positive Parenting Solutions. Amy, what is your question?
Well, I have a 13-year-old daughter. Actually, she'll be 14 really soon. And she's super responsible, wakes up for school on time, is always in the car, ready to go, does all of her homework. But on Saturdays, she loves to sleep. Like, she could sleep until 2 p.m. if I don't wake her up. And most Saturdays, if I let her do it. But then I wonder, should any teenager be allowed to sleep until 2 p.m.? And part of me starts to feel like I'm not making the right decision. So is it okay one day a week to let her have that morning?
I think it is, as long as she's getting her other responsibilities done, she seems healthy in other ways, she's getting outdoor activity. You know, for younger kids, if they're kind of sleep deprived during the week, they actually can't catch up. But for tweens and teens, you know, if they're a little sleep deprived during the week, they actually can. Their bodies can catch up on the weekend. And it sounds like that's what she's needing. So she sounds super responsible, and I'm sure she's healthy. So I don't see a big problem with it as long as her weekends are fulfilling, you know, once she gets up.
Oh, she's going to love you.
Eddie, you're on. What would you like to say?
Yeah. Hi, Amy. So we're talking about this me syndrome, and I feel like I go through this with my kids all the time. All they think about is me, myself, and not about others. And then we on the show, we read stories about these kids that are donating thousands of dollars from this lemonade stand that they started or whatever. And if you have any suggestions or recommendations to get kids to stop thinking about themselves so much and start thinking about, like, let's help other people. And I feel like I do a pretty good job being an example. So is that one way to do it? And are there any more ways to do it?
There are, and you said the most important thing is be the example you want your kids to be. But I think you could take that one step further and really make it a family value. So one of the tools that I love to teach is the family meeting. And it's like once a week we get together, we talk about the family calendar, we talk about what's going on, we have a family fun activity. It's a great ritual to start, but one component of that for you could be, all right, what is our family gratitude exercise for this week? Or what is our family philanthropy, our giving, whatever that happens to be? You can actually have some focus that the whole family engages in for that week. And that really then reinforces that, this is who we are. This is part of our family value. And then obviously we know that kids take that with them and will start to act in those ways on their own.
Love it.
All right, one more question, Lunchbox.
Yeah, Amy, I got a 2.5-year-old and timeout. We're trying this timeout thing, and half the times he'll do stuff and look at me and go timeout, like he likes timeout. But then when I'm really angry and I do want to put him in timeout, he won't stay in timeout. So what do you do?
Oh, that is the classic dilemma. And you're right, especially if you have a strong-willed child. They're like, yeah, right. Like, how are you going to keep me in timeout? And as he gets a little bit older, like, what are you going to do? Sit on him to keep him in the timeout chair? So again, I like to look at, okay, what is the specific behavior that we're trying to change? Like, can you give me an example of something he would go to timeout for?
He has a little brother and he'll just take toys and hit him with the toy.
Oh, yeah, not good. So first, obviously, supervision for a young child like that is super important. But the other thing that you can do is just redirect him in the moment to something else that is more interesting. But putting him in timeout either gives him a big hit of attention because he has all of your attention on him at that moment, and or escalates the power struggle. So it becomes this battle with you, and he's not even thinking about the toy anymore. One of the great solutions for that toy thing is if you can kind of have like a sharing list where let's say one is trying to steal a toy from the other. You could say, oh, you want to use the toy. Let me put your name on the sharing list or on the waiting list. And that way they have to wait till, it's their turn for the toy. But for that general kind of hitting stuff, it's especially a child that young, it's more about just keeping such a tight eye on them all the time and then redirecting them when the time comes.
Amy, we really appreciate your time. Amy McCready, you guys check out positiveparenting.solutions.com to sign up for her free online class. She got 2 books, if I have to tell you one more time, in the me epidemic, and follow her on Instagram at Positive Parenting Solutions. Amy, thank you. You were a wonderful resource for all of us and every single question we've had over the past 5 years, it seems.
Thank you, Bobby and friends. It was a delight.
All right, there she is. Amy McCready.
Yeah.
It's a Bobby Bones Show.